Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today, I'm looking at Dynasty sells. Make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe if you haven't. Let's go. So, for the first sell, I wanted to do something that's not just everyone is saying to sell this player. So, we're going to start with Bijan Robinson, who we all like, but let's look at why he is a sell for me. So last year in his rookie season, he had 214 carries, 976 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4.6 yards a carry, and 58 catches, 487 yards, 4 touchdowns. Finished his RB9 with 14.5 PPR points a game, 17th among running backs. So compared to last year, he has a new head coach, Raheem Morris, a new offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson, replacing Arthur Smith, same backup in Tyler Algier, new quarterback in Kirk Cousins, which should lead to a dynamic Falcons offense. On Keep Trade Cut, Robinson is RB1, and I have him at RB1. So you would think, why is he a sell? And I talked about this a little bit on my tiers episode, running back tiers, which you can watch. But it's not about his rank among running backs. It's about some of the players that are lower than Robinson in Keep Trade Cut rankings that I would rather have. So you can sell him for Puka Nacua or Garrett Wilson, young wide receivers, and you can probably get something with those receivers for Bijan Robinson. And I would absolutely do that, especially if you can get like a second with either of them for Bijan Robinson. Now, another set of deals that I thought was kind of insane. Apparently, and I find this hard to actually believe, but according to Keep Trade Cut, in Superflex, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, and Jaden Daniels are all rated lower than Bijan Robinson. How are any of these quarterbacks ranked below Robinson in Superflex ranks? It makes no sense to me. None at all. So I would absolutely sell Bijan Robinson at any of those prices. And then lastly, I kind of constructed an idea of my own. You could sell him for Jaylen Waddle, Nico Collins, or Devonta Smith, and a 25 first. We'll talk more about Waddle later. But getting these types of assets plus a future first from running back is usually good dynasty business. Of course, you could shoot even higher. Maybe you could get Drake London in a first, Chris Olave in a first. I thought that was optimistic. So I listed these players as cornerstone assets who all got contract extensions recently and a 25 first in Superflex to get out from under Bijan Robinson. Now, to close on Bijan Robinson, clearly, I don't disagree with Robinson's RB1 rank, as I discussed in the running back tiers video, as discussed earlier today. His price is less egregious in one quarterback leagues because of the quarterbacks. It's the quarterbacks in Superflex that are behind him that I vehemently disagree with. I would take them over him. In Superflex Dynasty leagues, I believe in building around quarterback at the start of drafts, not around running back. There are so many franchise quarterbacks available in Robinson's value range. And while Bijan Robinson is one of the best running back prospects of all time, he did not deliver as a rookie on his promise. His overall price is just far, far too high for me. The opportunity cost is the last thing of drafting Robinson in early round 2 of a startup versus, say, Devon A-Chain in late round 4 or early round 5 in Superflex. Just makes no sense to me. I'd much rather have A-Chain 3 rounds later and then be able to have secure quarterbacks earlier in the draft. Let's move into my next sell, Will Levis. I also kind of talked about this a little bit recently, but I think Levis is a very dangerous asset. Let's look into why. 58.4% completion in his limited sample size last year. 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He had 4 touchdowns in the first game and not so good after that. 7.1 yards per attempt is not awful, but he only had 25 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown in 9 games. So if he doesn't deliver as a passer, he's not going to make up for it for fantasy on the ground. It's not there. So he must deliver as a high-end passer because he has no rushing upside at all. What's the current situation? So they have a new head coach in Brian Callahan, who came from the Bengals. They added Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd to play alongside DeAndre Hopkins, Chigakonkwo, and I guess Treylon Burks Ouch. The offense is projected to be pass heavy after they lost Derrick Henry, replaced him with Tony Pollard. I think they're going to pass more to give Levis an opportunity to succeed at the very least. They got to see what they have. And KTC, Levis is quarterback 21. I have him quarterback 25. I have some issues with Will Levis. The first idea that I would use to get out from under Will Levis is sell him for Baker Mayfield. I really don't understand why Baker Mayfield is lower than Will Levis. Baker Mayfield is going to be 29 years old, so he's not old for a quarterback. We know that Baker Mayfield is good. He was good last year. He got a contract extension. He will be the starting quarterback for 2 years. I say he has 2 years guaranteed. Will Levis, it's this year and nothing else. So Baker Mayfield is a solid superflex asset. Will Levis is a maybe. So I would much rather have Baker Mayfield and play it safe. And if you can somehow get a 25 first for Will Levis, I would do it. You might have to add. I'm fine adding even a late second in this year's draft. If I can just get that 25 first for Will Levis, I would absolutely do that. Now, to kind of close out my discussion of Will Levis, I discussed not loving him on my Dynasty Trades video recently. Watch that one too. It's not got so many views, so I would appreciate any views on that one. He reminds me, though, Will Levis, of another too big to fail quarterback from a few years back. Very similar situation in Drew Lock. Drew Lock had the same early second round draft capital, the same profile. Some people liked him coming out of college. Some people didn't like him. He was polarizing. He was saying that way. Looked solid in a limited sample size in his rookie year. And then the team added weapons. They didn't turn out to be great in Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, but they added weapons for him. People were saying, oh, he has such good weapons. Drew Lock is definitely going to succeed. And as we know, it all went up in flames. He was terrible. Then he was benched and the next year, and that was it. If Will Levis does the same in 2024, he will not be a starter in 2025, especially since this head coach inherited Levis. He didn't pick Levis. So this head coach, Brian Callahan, will look for a new quarterback if Will Levis cannot deliver. And he has no excuses. He has excellent weapons. But we know that despite excellent weapons, if the quarterback is bad, it won't work. So I have heavy concerns about Levis at his current price. Now, if you like my YouTube content, and you want to see where I have Will Levis ranked, you should sign up for the Patreon. You get my rankings, access to the Discord, and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos. Tiers begin at just $6 a month. And the reason I do the Patreon is because it allows me to create independent content that is all mine. It's not controlled by corporate interests or editors that, require you to say certain things or not say certain things, require you to be nice. We're not always nice on this channel. But in order to do that, you need independent support from the audience base to exist. And I just really appreciate everyone who signs up, everyone who has signed up. It really would mean a lot to me. And it's the only way I'm going to be able to continue doing this long term. So just keep that in mind if you like these YouTube videos. And I promise on the Patreon, I'll help you have fun and win some fantasy leagues. Next player, last Dynasty sell of the day, Zay Flowers. And again, another second-year player, 3 of those on today's episode. What did he do as a rookie? He's decent, pretty good. 77 catches, 858 yards, 5 touchdowns, 108 targets, 4.8 catches, and 53.6 yards a game. Finished as wide receiver 30. 12.9 points per game, 31st among wide receivers. The current situation, he's got the same quarterback, Lamar Jackson, same head coach, John Harbaugh. Mark Andrews is now healthy. They still didn't add a wide receiver 2. OBJ left. They re-signed Nelson Aguilar. Bateman might take a step forward, and they added Devontae Walker, but not much changed in the wide receiver core. But they have a real running back in Derrick Henry. That is a change. They lost J.K. Dobbins week 1 last year. Didn't really have much of running back. Now, in keep trade cut, Zay Flowers is wide receiver 20, which I think is crazy. I have him wide receiver 25. Now, what could you do to sell Zay Flowers? The first thing, I would consider selling him for Xavier Worthy. Why would I do that? Good question. Worthy is probably, for me, a better prospect than Zay Flowers. He came out early, good production profile. I think he's a better prospect. Similar draft capital, 3 years younger, and on the Chiefs. So I don't understand why Zay Flowers is worth more. I don't get it. So for me, I'll take Xavier Worthy all day. Tank Dell. Again, I would rather have Tank Dell. Tank Dell was far, far more productive in the games he played than Zay Flowers was overall. And he was competing against Nico Collins, solid wide receiver. So I would rather have Tank Dell over Zay Flowers. The ADP has that reversed. In Superflex, apparently, you might be able to sell Zay Flowers for Bryce Young. I would much rather have the quarterback. Zay Flowers is never going to be a difference-making wide receiver. Never. He doesn't have it in his range of outcomes. I think the high-end outcome for Zay Flowers is like wide receiver 13 to 15. That's the best possible scenario. And that would require Mark Andrews to get hurt again. And then I said this earlier in the offseason, and there were some trades in the Patreon Discord selling Zay Flowers in a small piece for Jaylen Waddle. Probably can't do that now after Waddle's extension, but it's worth a shot. To close out on Zay Flowers, Flowers was nothing special in 2023, even as a 23-year-old rookie, not 21, 23, and with Mark Andrews hurt. Still wasn't special. Without J.K. Dobbins, the Ravens were still run heavy. With no good running backs, they still had 551 rushing attempts to 494 passing attempts. First in rushing attempts, 30th in passing attempts. Now, some people would say, oh, that's going to regress. They're going to pass the ball more. Really? They added no wide receivers and added Derrick Henry to the running back core. I think they're going to run more, not pass more. To me, though, it feels like Zay Flowers is not a real wide receiver one, and he is being valued not because of his talent, not because of the offense he's in, but because there are no other wide receivers there. And eventually that will change. They will acquire a wide receiver two better than Rashad Bateman. It will happen. I don't know when it's going to be, but it will happen. And when it does, Zay Flowers' value will decline because the offense has proven it can only support one wide receiver at best. Flowers is vulnerable because the passing pie is very small. Even last year with Mark Andrews out, he really did not deliver. So this is just an asset. Wide receiver 20, I don't see, it's hard for him to finish above wide receiver 20. Like, that's kind of his ceiling. I'm just not into it. I think he has a lot more downside risk than upside risk. So I'm just kind of out on Zay Flowers pretty much entirely. And then also he had his legal issues. Those mostly seem to have gone away, but it's a concern. Just another reason why I don't need to be in on Zay Flowers. So not a big fan of him. Now, I do have one piece of news. I've kind of touched on it a little bit, so we'll get into that right now. Jaylen Waddle, he got a contract extension. Very happy for him. 3 years, $84.75 million with $76 million guaranteed. $28.25 million a year goes through 2028. Now, it's far more money than either Nico Collins or Devonta Smith got. The guarantees say it's probably locked in through 2027, at a minimum 2026. So he'll be there for the next 3 years, minimum probably 4. I moved Waddle up one spot in my Dynasty rankings just because the contract is so big. To me, the deal suggests that Waddle could be the team's wide receiver one, and they see him as a wide receiver one, but he just isn't because they have an uber elite talent in Tyreek Hill. If Hill declines or leaves, they see Waddle as their wide receiver one. It's not like Devonta Smith, where they extended A.J. Brown in addition, where they always feel like Devonta Smith is better served as a wide receiver two. The value says that Jaylen Waddle is wide receiver one caliber to them. So I think wide receiver 15 is a fair dynasty price for his range of outcomes. Now, I have a couple of Patreon questions, and I think we'll just we'll do one today, and then we'll save the rest for later because the video is going a little bit long. James Cook outlook for 2024. And is he a player you'd be trading away or trying to acquire? Great question. So in 2024, I have James Cook in my redraft ranks, which you can buy on the Patreon, at running back 13, running back 11 in Dynasty. But I think he comes with risk. He's heading into year 3. He turns 29 in September. If Cook came at a cheap price or as a throw-in, which he doesn't, I'm okay with it, but he's not really a buy or a sell to me. I think he's mostly a hold. Generally, on trying to buy him, he's too expensive. On trying to sell him, you can't get enough back. So I'd say he's mostly a hold. Now, if you like the video, make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's all available on the Patreon, as I've talked about, which you can sign up for at the top right corner there. You get my Dynasty, Redraft, Rookie, and Start Sit content throughout the year. And every sign up for the Patreon supports my independent content like this YouTube channel. But lastly, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you all later.